For this homework assignment, you'll definitely need a piece of paper and pen or pencil. And first of all, please watch these lectures, or not even lectures, 1 minute and 42-second brief overview of the idea, and then 1 minute 29-second example. And that will help you to save a lot of time. All problems of this type are literally the same, so you can get them all done in like what, 6 steps or something. I don't know how many steps do I outline over here. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is there 6? Yep, 6 steps, right? So let me show you a few examples. Let's just jump right into the homework. And the homework looks like this. This is one of the most crucial skills necessary for Calculus 2 from trigonometry. And students frequently, by the time they get to the part of the Calculus 2 that requires this, they frequently forget this. So please review this carefully. We're looking for the sign of cotangent inverse. Cotangent inverse is also known as arctangent, and I actually prefer that name. But the idea is very simple. We can call what's inside of the parentheses here theta. The problem becomes quite simple. It's just finding sine of theta. Sine of theta is also very simple. It's just the opposite over adjacent. Now, in order for us to understand what the opposite, what is adjacent, we have to have a triangle. So in this triangle, this is theta. This is going to be my opposite side. This will be my adjacent side, and this will be my hypotenuse. Right? So as long as we have some sort of triangle to look at that represents theta, then we can figure out the answer. Now, where do we get this triangle from? We're going to get it from what's inside of this parenthesis, right over here. So what's inside of the parenthesis tells us that cotangent inverse of 2x plus 1 is equal to theta. Now, cotangent inverse means that cotangent of theta is equal to 2x plus 1. So saying this, it's pretty much saying the same thing. If square root of x equals 2, well, that means x is equal to 2 squared. That's what it means. So we use the definition of cotangent inverse to learn about theta. Now, cotangent, on the other hand, is what? It's cotangent is adjacent over the opposite. So now, as long as we throw this 2x plus 1 over some denominator 1, so we don't ruin this expression, now we can actually label this triangle as having adjacent side 2x plus 1 and having the opposite side equal to 1. And I think I made a terrible mistake here by calling sine as opposite over adjacent. It's opposite over hypotenuse, clearly, right? So how do we know what the hypotenuse is equal to? Hypotenuse will be equal, by Pythagorean theorem, the square root of the sum of the squares of each of those sides. So the hypotenuse will be equal to 1 squared plus 2x plus 1 squared. That's it. So now we have our opposite 1, and we have our hypotenuse, which is what we found it is. And let me just move it a little bit to the right. And I'm just going to use simple math here to simplify this. is going to be 4x squared plus 4x plus 1 and plus another 1 plus 2. So this is the answer. So it's going to be 1 over square root of 4x squared plus 4x plus 2. And that's correct. So all of these expressions are of the same type. And if you look at this solution, it's pretty much what I just showed you. Let's do another one of this. As you can tell, as you will be able to tell after I'm done with this one, all of these problems are pretty much the same. So we're looking for cotangent of cosine inverse of 4x minus 2. If I call this theta, then I'm just simply looking for cotangent of theta. Cotangent is adjacent over opposite. So I just need to figure out some triangle with angle theta in which I know the adjacent and the opposite. So this is my opposite. This is my opposite. This is my adjacent. This is my hypotenuse. And now how do I know that triangle exists? I can use the fact that theta is equal to cosine inverse, or in other words, cosine of theta is equal to 4x minus 2. Now I make a fraction out of it, and I use the fact that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse to label this triangle. My hypotenuse is 1, my adjacent side is 4x minus 2, and therefore my opposite side will therefore be square root of 1 minus 4x minus 2 squared. And we can just leave it as is. So the final answer is adjacent, which is 4x minus 2, divided by the opposite, which is square root of 1 minus 4x minus 2 squared. I hope you can read my handwriting, or mouse writing, I guess, in this case, but hopefully you get the right impression. And the right impression here is that all of these problems are the same. They all follow this same steps over and over. So probably 2 more. All right, well, look, it does look same as the previous one. So let's do it again. But at this time, I encourage you to, just maybe pause the video before you see what I do and kind of try to predict my next move. So I'm going to try to be very efficient here. So we're looking for sine of theta. Sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. So we need triangle. This is theta, this is opposite, this is adjacent, this is hypotenuse. But the knowledge of the sides of the triangle comes from us knowing that secant of theta is equal to 5x plus 1. Throw it over 1 and use the fact that secant is hypotenuse over adjacent. So my hypotenuse is 5x plus 1. My adjacent is 1, and my opposite is therefore square root of 5x plus 1 squared minus 1. And we don't need to simplify this. We can just write it out like this. Hopefully it's the last problem, because I'm sure you got the idea, and my mouse is tired. Hypotenuse is 5x plus 1. Typing is definitely faster than mouse writing. Square root of 5x plus 1 squared minus 1 divided by 5x plus 1. And of course it's right. Come on, mastery bar. One more problem. Hopefully this is the last one. Let's do this one. So we have cosine of cosecant inverse of 3x minus 3. And again, we're going to call this theta. And we're looking for cosine of theta. And cosine of theta is simply adjacent over hypotenuse in some triangle with angle theta, and the sides label accordingly. And now we're going to use the fact that cosecant theta is equal to 3x minus 3. We're going to turn it into a fraction and use the fact that cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. We're going to label hypotenuse as 3x minus 3, opposite as 1, and by Pythagorean theorem, adjacent side will be the square root of 3x minus 3 squared minus 1. So the final answer is adjacent side square root of 3x minus 3 squared minus 1 divided by hypotenuse, which is 3x minus 3. My handwriting, mouse writing gets sloppier and sloppier with every problem, so hopefully this is the last one. Minus 1 divided by 3x minus 3. Yay! No. Yay! We are done with this homework, and the next homework will be from the next lesson. So again, as always, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out.